Hey everyone, welcome to the third episode of Music, Art or Business. Today we have with me a very special guest, Priya Mandlewala, who is the founder of Nourish, which is a music tech ed startup, and she's based here in Surat. And their aim is to revolutionize and bring a new approach to music education. Welcome and glad to have you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Diva.
So, before we get on to how you built Nourish and everything, I would love to know how your background, like where did you start your musical journey? How did you get into music?
Okay. So, I'll just give you a few milestones so you have an idea of where I come from. I do not come from a musical family. My family has only businessmen and, of course, working women, but nobody is musical. So, I did not have that advantage growing up. I much later realized in life that it was what I was watching that made me a musician. I used to love this one cartoon, Oswald. I used to just love watching that cartoon. I used to watch it in different languages. That's in Tata Sky my button out to You could watch it in Telugu or
Yes,
Hindi, English, Tamil. I used to watch it. And Oswald used to make up songs on the fly. Like, life ma je thatu hoy, the instances that happen, very silly but so sweet sounds. Then, much later, say around the age of 6 or 7, my dad discovered that I was gifted with transcription. So, very simply put, if I hear a melody, I can play it back to you.
Wow.
And because I had access to the little keyboard, he realized, okay, no, there is something that I can't, I can't really quantify what it is, but there is something.
Yeah.
So, like a diligent father, he took me to a music class, a reputed music class in Surat. I went there for a month and I came back because I was utterly bored. I did not enjoy it at all. So I quit all music lessons because I hated it. I loved music, I hated the lessons. After that, in the 11th or 12th grade, I'm an only child and I was having troubles with my parents. I can't explain myself. I started writing songs in that process and then I fell back in love with music.
Wow.
Then I decided I want to pursue this professionally. This is my life, this is my calling. That's where I enrolled at A.R. Rahman's KM Music Conservatory. And from there, my journey took a completely different trajectory because I had an amazing foundation through KM. So, all my years that I did not pursue music was compensated for that amazing program that I had. So, this is my musical background of where I learned how I grew.
Wow, love it. I mean, despite not having a musical family, I feel a lot of people I see right now who are into music, they usually family give somewhere music se connected
Right.
there. So love that. A lot of people, love music, but they usually don't build a business infrastructure around it, right? Um, so they are really into the art of music, into the passion, and they have a limited mindset. Ki, I can't, build a business infrastructure on it. So how did you come to choose entrepreneurship and education along with music? Like after KM.
Yes. So while I was at KM, in the first year we received merit scholarship because result.
Yeah.
So after that, my teacher recommended that you should teach the kids of the Sunshine Orchestra. And at that point, I was very, very reluctant. Okay, I am here to be an artist. I don't want to teach, and it's so boring. Who's going to do the same thing 100 times? But I really fell in love with teaching. That's where I found it was really fulfilling. Everything to do with the mind is always fun, and you want to move ahead. But there are certain things that just fulfill you. It was one of those for me. I started working very early. So I got my first part-time job at this company based in the US called Sensory AI. And I started working there part-time while I was in my final year of college.
Okay.
It completely changed my perspective. I'll tell you a very simple difference. It took me some time to understand. The musician's world is about depth. एक चीज ने लઈને how deep can you go? It's about really going deep in your niche. And entrepreneur's world is of breadth. How far can you reach? How much can you push it? So this fundamental difference is very difficult to see if you're just in one. So as a businessman, it is very difficult to just see depth of subject matter or technical understanding. As a musician, it is very difficult to look beyond your depth. So I had the fortune that because I started working, I started seeing कि music ना applications છે. Music is not just a hobby. It is not just sadhana. It is that also. It is not just that. But how do you make it work for other people is the fundamental truth on which business is built.
Yeah.
You know, that's the difference between a hobbyist and a business person. So I understood that, and that is why I wanted to make my work travel. Every musician wants to be heard. Otherwise, you're not a professional musician. Otherwise, you're just doing it at home for fun, you know. But if you're a professional musician, you want to be heard. So if you will keep singing or if you'll keep telling the story just true to you, who's going to relate and who's going to listen and why should they listen? So that difference I wanted to make an impact. 1,000 people are making songs about heartbreak and love and amazing. I am not that person. I would rather make an impact with my skills. So I have to think in an enterprising manner to be able to maximize impact. So that one opportunity changed my mental frame.
So what you just said, like it so beautifully captures the intersection of music and business, which is what my series is about.
Yes.
So love that. Really, entrepreneurs have this assumption or belief something about the industry that they get into, right? Before they get into it. So before you started building Nourish, was there some assumption that you had, a belief that you held about either the music industry, education industry, or even entrepreneurship in general? But when you started doing that, when you experienced, it changed, like that assumption that you held or the belief that you held before?
Well, I assumed if you offer something good, people will take it. That was probably the assumption that hit me in the face. Because what you may think is good is not good for your people. Sometimes you might have something absolutely brilliant, but if it is not in your consumer's top 10 priority list, it's not going to make it there. You know, I would think the Burj Khalifa is absolutely amazing. Sitting here, I'm told it's amazing. But if it is not my priority to visit Dubai, I'm not going to make it there. It's as simple as that. So that assumption, just because it is good, it will be viable, is an assumption that I had to learn the hard way is not true. So that is one belief I held on to. Because it's the most natural, you know, as an artist. But that's where I understood that, okay, this is not how entrepreneurship will work.
Yeah, totally agree. And I feel, when you actually experience, like when you actually do the work of entrepreneurship, you realize that what you held earlier is not true. Yeah. So businesses usually face, especially at the early stage, a lot of hurdles like financing, getting investors, sales, and so much. So you must have also faced those, right, in the early stage, some challenges. How did you navigate that? And was there any unique challenge to a music startup that other startups would not have faced?
Yes. So there would have been two hurdles in my mind at that point. The first is capital. You've got to invest a huge sum to put together a good bunch of technicians. So a lot of the work, I just invested my time, because while you're young, you might not have a lot of money. You have a lot of time. So I used to genuinely work 16, 17 hours a day.
Wow.
I have written over 60 songs. I have composed over 60 songs. I did not think of myself as a composer, but now I can comfortably say I am one, because I am down 60 plus songs, right? Just the juniors section.
Yeah.
So the capital investment was taken care of because I invested that time. I did not, that cut down the expense of a huge team as well for me. So I put in the work, I worked with the best technicians, but because I understood the process, grassroots level thing, I was not taken for a ride. It was not very expensive for me.
Okay.
Knowing market rate, I can tell you.
Yeah.
The other point where it got tricky was, it might not be true for all music businesses. The business I run is working directly with schools. I chose a B2B model for creating maximum impact, right? The problem is you have multiple stakeholders in this setup. I'll tell you, you have a trustee or a financial head, you have a principal who is an academic head, you have a coordinator, teacher, and students. So your client is your trustee and principal. Your consumer is the teacher, your user is the student. So you have to come up with something that will work on all of these levels.
Yeah.
That is where the product market fit was tricky. Certain things are good, they work for the student, very difficult for the teacher. Certain things are amazing, too expensive for the school.
Yeah.
So certain things have to align on all of these, and then it is viable as a business. So yeah, this was a hurdle that I had to cross, but once I found balance, because I took time to find it, now I'm fairly confident in what I do, because I have seen enough validation. I have seen my things work. I have heard amazing things, you know, amazing things, the most heartwarming things from different people, different stakeholders. So yeah, these were the hurdles. Capital is usually a hurdle because you have to invest a huge sum, and product market fit is another one. So for me, these were the two hurdles.
Yeah, it's commendable how you navigated this, because usually people at early age, like, they invest a lot in capital, sometimes they even take loans, right? But how you smartly invested time and overcome that, it's great. So yeah, as a founder, especially startup, at the early stage, right? There are a lot of roles that you, like you said, you have to do everything, right? So did it happen that it the business side got to you a lot, like that you sometimes may have lost touch with music, like sometimes were there moments where you felt burnt out from the different roles of a startup?
Putting in the work, and for me growing up, I have always been the jack of all trades. So doing diverse things was a part of the fun for me.
Okay.
But while you're building something and you don't see immediate result,
Yeah.
you don't see immediate validation. And if you're trying to innovate something, for me to believe in something, I have to see results. Just because I made it, I cannot assume it is amazing. So it's important that it works. So that was where I was feeling burnt out. That, if you don't see hours of work not showing results, or people showing resistance, people who have been in the business for a while believing this is not going to work. So as an innovation, putting in the work is where I felt burnt out.
Yeah.
And while the musical domain is concerned, I think one difference that helps me sustain as a professional is my personal preferences, personal liking, personal joys of listening, singing, creating are separate from my professional commitments. I am not a hobbyist and I am not just a professional. I can be both. So for me, there is a very distinct line that I draw, that this is kind of what I love. Not to say I don't love the music of Nourish. It is genuinely a piece of my heart.
Yes.
All of it, absolutely all of it, is a piece of my heart. But that is not everything I do in my profession, in my personal pursuit as a musician. For me, the work and the sadhana are different. The minute I mix them up is where the trouble begins. That's where it gets tiring. For me, I just separated them out. I need 1 hour a day to do what I like, and it keeps me going.
Yeah. Wow. So, uh, love how you have put like a boundary to the passion and the profession. But there are a lot of young entrepreneurs, who want to get into the career pathway when they have a passion for music. But there are a lot of limitations from the society that music make you can't really make a career. There's not a lot of money, and so what is one advice you would give to those young people who are torn between the two sides? Like, because you have been able to handle that.
So when I wanted to pursue music, it took me a year to convince my own mother because she was thinking I will waste my potential. I was a topper at school.
Yeah.
So they felt like I should take a more serious, a more stable, a more rewarding career as my path. But I was very clear that to do, I know I can put my mind to anything and I will be able to. It's just a matter of hard work and persistence, almost everything.
Yeah.
But then why not put in that into something I love? So it is not to say that just because you are passionate about something, it's going to work. You have to still persist. You have to
Yeah,
persevere after it, though it's going to work.
Yes.
That was one time I could power through it. Now, in the world of AI, I'll tell you, even back in college, I was never a virtuoso, or I was never that one person that you know for this one thing she does amazingly. I could do a little bit of everything. And at that point, it felt like I was a lukewarm student where I'm not outshining, or I'm not the girl,
Yeah.
I knew a little bit of everything. And I think that was my biggest advantage. In the world of AI, a lot of single skills are going to be redundant. This is true for everyone.
Yeah.
You've got to have transferable skills. You've got to have skills, that being the first assumption. It's not going to work on just qualification. You've got to have experience, you've got to have skills, real skills, transferable skills.
Yes.
And the more creatively you can think, the better. If I am a normal musician, say for instance, I write a song about my feelings for my husband, I write him a love song, say for instance, okay?
Yeah.
I have to go through a grind to make 50 reels to promote it, put money after views, then perform it live. There is a whole bandwagon after it. But if I can have a smart way of creating impact and creating a user
Yeah.
through a school, I chose a school. Then I have 500 listeners on day one.
Yes.
That is one thing. So the more creatively you can think of being able to do what you want to do. I, at the end of the day, want to have fun with music. This is one path I have chosen. Maybe down the line there will be something else that will entice me and I will feel like, oh wow, I can create impact in this space. Then go with that. So as a parent today, we are at a cusp where we are supposed to train children. We are supposed to educate children for a world that we don't know about. You don't know for what you're preparing. So just have a little bit of everything so your child has exposure. When they're stuck, they know where to go. Finding the path further ahead is something they will do with age, but introduce everything a little bit early age. That assortment is going to help.
Yeah.
So yeah, if your child is introduced to music early on, they will know what it is. They will have that advantage. If they are introduced to a little bit of business early on, they're whatever it is, real people, professionals, if you can give them exposure with them, they will start making these connections in their brain earlier.
Yeah.
So the more creative their path further ahead, the better for them.
Yeah. And yeah, what you just said is what Nourish is about, right? Like you're introducing such young children to so many things at an early age, and very glad you're doing it.
Yes, it's really, almost all of it is so layered. And I'll tell you, I wouldn't talk so passionately about it just because I made it, because I made it 3 years ago. I'm talking about it today because when I see the faces of our children, when I see them learn so much, you know, you will underestimate 60 seconds if you don't have a piece of music. Watch what those 60 seconds can do if you have a piece of music.
Wow.
That is something that changed my life, to see the power of that in real time. So that's incredible, I think.
Wow. Yeah. So, like, we've talked about the present, how you've built Nourish, how you've been building Nourish. Like, what do you think the future of Nourish looks like? So, how would you define success for Nourish? Is it like some revenue number, sales, or is it like bringing a qualitative impact that means more to you? So, or is it a mixture of both?
I think my shortcoming is that um, my passion takes over my profession. So I don't aim big numbers at
Yeah.
all. I aim to be sustainable as a business. My end goal is to be able to reach as many kids as I can. Very simple. It's not about the money. It's not just about the money for me. I am not just an entrepreneur who chose music. I am a musician who chose entrepreneurship. So my goal is impact. જેટલા બચ્ચા છે એટલીસ્ટ આ કન્ટ્રીમાં બધા પાસે આનું એક્સેસ હોવું જોઈએ. આઈ એમ નોટ સેઇંગ દે હેવ ટુ નેલ ઇટ. આઈ એમ નોટ સેઇંગ દે હેવ ટુ ડુ જસ્ટ ધીસ. They have to have access to something like this. So if there is a child in that group which is like you, which is like me, they are seen.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing that keeps me going. How many students have access to this today?
Wow. I feel, yeah, you always need to have a purpose in mind to keep you going, yes. So, this is the last question which I ask everyone. So, if you had the power to change one thing in the music industry, something, what would that be? Or is there something that is already changing, rapidly changing in the music industry that people might not be aware of? Like, something that's bringing an impact.
So I don't know if I want to change something,
Yeah.
because I usually don't operate from the mindset, I wish this was different. I always operate from the mindset, this is what it is, what can I do about it? So that train of thought is not something that comes naturally to me.
Okay.
But based on everything I see around me, there is a huge wave with AI based music, and that is something we need to watch out for.
Yeah.
It's not new. So a lot of plugins have been using machine learning for technical finesse, like for mixing, mastering. A lot of machine learning has been part of the process for a while. This wave is new, but it is something that we have to make note of, whether it is good, it is bad, what are the implications of it. That works on a global level. It's much broader than my calculation at this point. But I increasingly see these conversations and controversies around AI, and it's all right. It's just a wave. Today it's AI, tomorrow it will be something else.
True.
We've got to upgrade. But what I have believed and I wish happens more of, and I know it is changing, is people are tapping into cultural capital. The deeper you can go in your culture, whatever it is, the more roots it is going to give to you. And that is your way to stand apart. That is your way of being you in this noise of endless music. And the hours and hours of elevator music will be produced. AI cannot catch up to roots. It cannot mimic culture. So it is time to really, really dive deep into your own roots, which is why I focus a lot on folk, Halada. My husband's line of work is in regional music. So cultural capital is where you will find your gold mine as an artist, is what I think.
Wow. I always had this perspective of AI. Ke it's really, messing with everything, but love this perspective. How we can, navigate through it.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of you for tuning in to Music Art of Business. It was lovely to interact with you, gain so many new insights and perspectives.
Thank you so much.